Hello everyone. Today we will start with Aristotle. Okay, so I hope by now you have completed Plato. Now, as we know, he is one of our spa thinkers: Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Okay, and he is also one of the adopted sons of Plato. He is one of the best disciple of Plato, but at the same time, he is one of the best critique of Plato. Now, we should not be confining ourselves with this word critic because it is not as much he's doing criticism as much he's trying to clean him up, clean his act. Who's Plato's? Plato has been too radical in his approach. He wants to give a solution to make Athens into an ideal state. But whatever he is giving as his solution is too out of the box, too radical. Basically, near to impracticality. Impracticality. And Aristotle sees that. Aristotle, even though being Plato's adopted son and his disciple, is not confined to the world of ideas. The nature of reality that exists for Plato like this is reality for him. Reality has two components. One is your physical world, that is the this one, material world. Meanwhile, there is the world of ideas, kingdom of God, where everything is perfect, everything is permanent. And according to Plato, this physical world is nothing but a shadow of this world, the world of ideas that he believes to be real. Now, Aristotle is very correct in his approach that he believes. See, this is a Buddhist philosophy. This is a Buddhist philosophy of Buddhist tradition, middle path, middle approach, or if you know it, सम्यक मार्ग, सम्यक ज्ञान. So the same concept is being applied by Aristotle. He takes the path of golden mean, that according to him, the nature of reality is nothing like how Plato proposes. And this leads us to our first debate, nature of reality. Now, Socrates and Plato, whenever we try to address the question of nature of reality, we have to give a justification for it, and that justification is known as theory of knowledge in Socrates, theory of ideas, or let's say forms, or let's say knowledge of Plato's. Similarly, here also we will call it the theory of idea, or let's say form, or let's say knowledge. And how is it different from Plato's? So, according to Aristotle, for Aristotle, there is no independency between the two, that this is idea and this is your material world. According to him, there is no bifurcation. Okay? It is nothing like that. That Kashmir and Ladakh. No, no, no. Nothing like that. According to Aristotle, idea also is part of this world. Material is also part of this world. And both live together. Both coexist together. Further, he says that unlike Plato, you do not need to have special tool to understand this idea. No, 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 no. You do not need to have this reason. You just need to have common sense. If you have common sense, then you can understand any idea. You just need to have common sense. What is common sense? Common sense is nothing but your collective wisdom of ages. Collective wisdom of ages. We are not supposed to, in Indian households, I'm not sure if with you this is true or not, but Indian household, the broom, that is the jhadu thing, right? That is called Lakshmi. Do not use leg to, move broom. It is Lakshmi. So this kind of thing, common sense. Now, obviously, it is not a goddess. It is not Lakshmi. It is not money. But the idea is that when you do this, you refrain from using your body parts to move that broom, and hence any disease, dirt, material does not come to your body. Okay? So idea is it is a common sense. You cannot use this argument with a child. So you use your common sense. Now you are grown up, so you know that you are not supposed to touch it, the broom, okay, because it is dirty. I hope you get it. So it is a collective wisdom of ages. You need to trust it. You need to have it. Okay. You do not question it that array, what Lakshmi, I will eat near it only. No, 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 no. There must be some reason, right? If so many old people are telling something, and understand one thing that the rise of technology was not always like today. So I understand if 30 years ago, let's say somebody's grandfather was not able to fathom that will it be ever possible to have a face to face live chat, okay, like Skype or anything, they would not have understand. Now think of it at a time, that is Greece, ancient Greece. Here you see after 500 years or 1000 years, nobody is doing any technological thing. So what you do is basically rely on your previous generation's knowledge, whatever they amassed. Okay, I hope that makes sense. When Plato was telling the story, he said that idea is different, material is different. This one is real, this one is shadow. Plus, you need to have sensory organ to realize this material, and you need to have reason to analyze this idea. But what Aristotle is focusing on, you need to have just common sense. Now understand which is the perfect idea. Idea of justice is the perfect idea. So I guess that query is also solved. That here only common sense, or let's say collective wisdom of ages, we will apply for our idea of justice. Okay, so we will try to come there also, but first try to understand how Plato and Aristotle's are similar. Okay, because Aristotle has been influenced by Plato, he has been a disciple of Plato, but at the same time he has been a critique of Plato, and not just any critic. I guess he is a very successful critique because Plato changed his views in his book Laws, where he refined his views of rule of philosopher king, that is man, and changed it to rule of law, which according to Aristotle is as same as knowledge, which was the previous hypothesis of Plato, which he wanted to attain, that is rule of knowledge over Athens. Okay, Now understand this thing. Aristotle was not born in Athens. He was born somewhere far from Athens. Then he was raised up in Macedonia. And then he came to Athens and he started a school here. School. Okay. So he was teaching everyone. And there is a very fine, fine art that he tried to develop his school. It was not just like any ordinary school. See, what Plato was writing about was basically, just think about it, what Plato was writing about. Plato was writing about rubbish, pure rubbish. No practical, no practical, it has any significance. No practical significance. Okay? If you know all of Plato, if you have read everything that there is that is written by Plato, technically you are still a, let's say, uneducated person. Why? Because understand, no? What do you know from Plato? A rubbish idea, that idea is real, technically this world is unreal. A rubbish idea of justice, a rubbish idea of everything that he was giving. Okay? Family abolition, who will go for this thing? Nobody will listen to you. You will be treated as an uneducated. If you apply that I have read all the material of Plato to a, let's say, institute, education institute, or let's say a university, you will be declared uneducated. You won't. Today I am talking about, he has written only about rubbish things, nothing practical. Whereas if Aristotle, he has written books about biology, he has written books about constitutions, he has read 158 kind of constitutions and compared them. Okay? He has tried to give a definition of what, how law should be, how property should be maintained, how slaves and slavery should be continued. He has given a finite theory of revolution, how revolution is occurring in whole of Athens and what are the prominent causes and how to avoid them. So there is a very particular class of society that he inducts in his school and teaches them, which is always the ruling class and the soldier class, obviously. But what he has written has a very practical paradigm to it. Okay, you understand this thing. Plato has no practicality. If you know Plato, you are just uneducated. You know nothing technically. If you know Aristotle, you know a lot of things. Okay, so this is a very huge difference between the both. Okay, if you if you if one book of Aristotle you are totally aware of, that means you can apply for any, let's say, almost a PhD. You almost have a PhD in that subject, especially considering it that it was written 2000 years back. Okay. Meanwhile, you read a book of Plato, you know nothing. Nothing you will say will have any significance or meaning, because most of the thing Plato talks about is imaginary things. He was always on a trip. Okay. His books also is just a imagination. And what is he imagining all the time? That he's talking to some guy who most and always Socrates, this person. So this is Plato and this is Socrates, and they keep on talking, and then he comes to a result and he says, this is my dialectics. This is what he does and says that this is the justification for giving this justification. So he is very, very, I don't know how to say it, but most of the thing that he has done is just imagination. Meanwhile, Aristotle, he uses a methodology that is based upon observation rather than imagination. Observation is the key term here, because see, 158 constitutions you are reading, then comparing, then trying to interpret what are the causes of revolutions. Okay, what different kind of revolutions occur, what should be the solution to avoid them. Okay, and what is the most common cause of revolution. Okay, why does revolution happen, why does it occur? So he has a very, as I said, practical utility, because observation, and because you are using observation, and observation has practicality in it. Hence we refer to Aristotle as father of political science. Science because of the approach, observation and practicality. Understand? Spa, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates. Socrates, your father of philosophy, good life. Okay. Plato, father of political philosophy, good political life, also known as ideal state. And your Aristotle, father of political science. Science because of observation as a method and practicality. ठीक है, भैया किंगडम ऑफ गॉड तो बनाओगे नहीं, प्रैक्टिकलिटी यहीं पे दिख रही है तुम्हें एरिस्टोटल में. ओके, नाउ अंडरस्टैंड प्लेटो and Socrates. This was one team and they were against sophists. Now why? See, you are of a opinion that money and power is not real. What is real for you? Knowledge. Not just any knowledge, knowledge of idea. So you are of this argument. Okay, you are giving this argument. Meanwhile, there is these people, they are teaching the ruling class what, that you go after money and power, you use the skills of oratory. So obviously there is a clash of idea. So obviously the two traditions differ. Sophist traditions is against Plato and Socratic tradition. Now obviously if you are student of him and your student is Aristotle, so obviously one thing is sure, however practical you are yet against the sophist, because you have been brought up like that, right? So Aristotle also against sophists. He also do not like this thing, going after, running after money and power. What he tries to do is balance it out. Instead of saying that only this is real or that is real, he always says that ठीक है यार, balanced you try to have. Balance, keep balance, golden mean. If you remember this keyword golden mean, you remember Aristotle always. Okay. Now understand Plato. Plato gave his theory of soul, that a person's soul is comprising of three things: first, reason, then appetite, and your courage. And the composition can differ. So obviously every person soul is also differing. Now tell me one thing, if you have less strength and you have more strength, I can go to gym and increase my strength. But how do you defect or rectify this, the difference in soul? You cannot. And Plato believes in your inequality of soul. And because it is by birth, soul is not something that the characteristic you can change, so it is natural inequality. And we will see that Aristotle also supports this argument, and he also believes in natural inequality. ठीक है, natural inequality, how we will see this? because he says that slave, no reason man. ठीक है, slave, when we will study, we will see how he approaches this problem of slave justifying slavery. So he says that they have no reason, it is better that they do this. Okay, and this is a person who is a master. Okay, he is physically weak, oh sorry, physically strong, and he is physically weak but mentally strong. So they both help each other, that I will tell you what to do, you do. This is productive for your country also, productive because you are using, if we go by the words of Plato, you are doing what your soul is inclining you to do, but not the real case. So ठीक है, then we also try to see some differences between them, Plato and Aristotle. As I told you earlier, he is not a realist. First thing you understand this, not a realist. Although Plato is an idealist, and because you are idealist, that is why I am telling that you are very impractical, or let's say radical. ठीक है? But Aristotle, you are not a realist. It is not like you are opposite of this. You are actually pragmatic, or let's say balanced, sorted, golden mean. ठीक है? That is mix of both. Idealism also you have, realism also you have. Because you are not saying that idea is not real. You are just saying that idea coexists with material here. It is not like it is independent of material. It is coexisting together. ठीक है? This is Plato. What do we want to do? अरे institution of family, प्लेटो के दादा, प्लेटो के ग्रैंडफादर, प्लेटोज ग्रेट ग्रैंडफादर, all were married, all had children, all had property, but he wants to unroot this thing. He wants to uproot this institution of marriage. So basically he is trying to do what? He's trying to bring out a radical change in the system, radical change in the society. He wants to bring that. In a society that is patriarchal in nature, he's saying that women should be made burden free so that they can perform duty. He है, at a time like that, okay, he's trying to uproot everything that people know. At the same time, what Aristotle tries to do, he wants to do, is preserve your tradition. You preserve your tradition and culture. Marriage is a tradition and culture. The ceremony is tradition and culture. He wants to preserve that. ठीक है? He wants to save that because he believes that it is only your collective knowledge of ages. ठीक है? You should not be removing this for one man's word. ठीक है? Or in Aristotle's word, you should not be, let's say, sacrificing good for the best. You should not be in a habit of doing this. Good is very good enough. You should not be sacrificing good for the idea of best. So this brings us to another unique point, that Aristotle has a list of state. Plato had a list of state. What kind of state should we? And let's say Plato key first point, the best state was the ideal state that he wanted to create, that is the philosopher king ruled state. And Aristotle also has a list, and he also has in first a state, Aristotle state. Understand this thing, प्लेटो का द सेकंड बेस्ट स्टेट है ना, दैट इज योर फर्स्ट बेस्ट स्टेट ऑफ एरिस्टोटल. ठीक है? सो एरिस्टोटल्स फर्स्ट बेस्ट स्टेट इज प्लेटो सेकंड बेस्ट, और लेट्स से एरिस्टोटल का आइडियल स्टेट is Plato's second best state, because obviously first best state is the best ever possible, and best is always unachievable. Yeah, and hence understand what Aristotle means, that never sacrifice good for the best. Starting with our theory of idea, form, knowledge, all are interchangeable word. No need to get confused. As I told you before, in one word, if you want to summarize this, it is this: nothing is outside of this world. And in this one line, this whole theory is being summarized. Understand that for Plato, try to approach Aristotle from the viewpoint that you are trying to rectify Plato. ठीक है? You are trying to rectify whatever impracticality is there in Plato's opinion. You try to rectify that, you will come to Aristotle automatically. Okay, so you try to bring practical nature. Okay, try to be worldly wise, and when you bring that part, obviously Aristotle you will be starting to visualize how he thinks. ठीक है, worldly wise, common sense. Now try to see, for Plato the world was like the idea and material. Both are independent of each other. One is material world is shadow. Meanwhile, understand, you require different tools. Here sensory organs, and here reason. ठीक है? Now why all this? So that you can know what is right and wrong. ठीक है? How do you know that? Your soul will tell when you look within. How does soul know? Because soul has been to kingdom of God. All that you, I hope, understand. Aristotle do not do this mumbo jumbo. What he tries to tell you is that everything is here. Nothing is outside of this world. So according to him, idea is here and material is here, and both coexist. As simple as that. And if you want to understand material, use your sensory organs. If you want to understand idea, just use your common sense. As simple as that. ठीक है? There is nothing much here, and this common sense you understand is what his practical approach is. ठीक है? Because common sense will be agreed upon by the majority of the population. Majority of the population believes that. How come it is common? Common sense is eating with your mouth closed. Now that is common sense. Okay, I hope I make that point very clear. Or let's say when you meet someone that is older to you, ठीक है, elder to you, then you touch their feet. That is common sense. Now let's suppose you tomorrow go meet a old person, and instead of touching feet, what you do is touch eyes. Okay, you put fingers in their eyes. Namaste. Now they will slap you. Why? Because that is not right. Even not right, not wrong. Because why are you touching feet? That also is like touching feet. You can touch eyes also, but at the point when you will touch eye, it will stop making sense to them. Why? Because it is not a common sense. Common sense is common to everyone, not just you. Okay? Everyone, majority of the population, they will say, okay, I understand what you mean. If a person, let's say, snatches your chain that you are wearing and tries to run away, and you run after him and you are able to get hold of him and you start beating him, if any person nearby comes and asks why you are beating him and you say that he was breaking my chain, they will also support you, but you won't find any place or anywhere where when you will tell the public that bhai he was snatching my chain, and they will start beating you, that you are not letting this cute fellow, poor fellow, snatch your chain, how bad of you. Okay, because that is not sense, that would not make sense. And a sense which everyone is talking similarly is your common sense. Why am I elaborating on this thing? I do not know, but ठीक है. Okay, so that is practical, right? और सोचो प्लेटो होता तो वो कहता कि अरे आइडिया इज रियल, chain is unreal, take the chain, go away, I will live with my idea. Next time I will just imagine that I am wearing a gold necklace. I do not need material. So Plato is totally in illusion, not even illusion, too much imagination he has. He is imagining a lot. Okay, now, and try to understand what you need to get from this theory of idea or form or knowledge anywhere, wherever you study, whether Socrates or Plato. ठीक है, basically what you're trying to understand is just nature of reality, as simple as that. You need to talk about something because you are a thinker, and before you talk about something, first tell me what that thing is it real or imagination? Now you want to talk about real thing, so you first tell me what is real. ठीक है, अब प्लेटो है, उसको बात तो इमेजिनेशन की करनी है, बट दिखाना है ऐसे जैसे रियलिटी की बात कर रहा है, तो पहले वो बताता है कि इमेजिनेशन ही रियलिटी है, और इमेजिनेशन को इमेजिनेशन नहीं, ही विल टेल आइडिया, आइडिया होता है. सो यू आर जस्ट जस्टिफाइंग योर सेल्फ टू मेक योर सेल्फ मोर बिलीवेबल, articulating yourself more scientific in nature. Not talking about Aristotle, Plato. Okay, now let's try to understand his perspective over state, theory of state. Understand the big debate of the times. Even today, if you try to go in this debate, this is a very big debate among scholars from ancient times, and no consensus is there. Obviously, you can have a chronology, means what happened first, what happened later, like your hen and egg question, what came first, hen or egg. Similarly, the debate here is not just confined to what came first, it is confined also which is more important. Let's say this is a person and this is state. Now, which is more important? Now, we know one thing, that for Plato, state was more important than the man. And whenever you lay more emphasis on state, let's say USSR or let's say communist China, ठीक है, whenever you lay more emphasis on the state, there is never, almost never, any talk of rights. What we do talk about is duty. ठीक है, so in this regard I would say that Aristotle is very much like his teacher Plato, because he also believes in the same concept that citizen should be having a duty. Understand all the actors in this equation: citizen, citizen, duty, state. 1, 2, 3. Now what we will try to do is first understand state, or at least Aristotle's conception of state, then his definition of the nature of man, and we will try to go into what citizenship is for Aristotle. Okay, because then only we will have a clear understanding of what his perspective is for state. Okay, understand there is no clarity. Even today, this debate is on, but we can just do what? Understand the thinker and what he believed. That's it, and write in our exam. Nothing else we need to do. Okay, So understand this thing, you are a person, ठीक है, and you are living very happily, and try to understand it like this, that you are in a forest, you live in this forest only, ठीक है, and you are very happy, not happy, whatever it is, nobody cares. Why? Because you are alone. There is a good deer here, very poor drawing, what kind of deer it is I have no idea, ठीक है. When you see a deer, you kill it, you eat it, no issue. But you are cold because you do not have clothes, you do not know the concept of clothes, and you want to have a child also, but you cannot reproduce also. So understand that you, a man, has needs, and even for reproducing, he is not able to do it. This is a amoeba. By amoeba can just make sure that it goes to the next stage where amoeba tries to split its nucleus. I hope you know this. In NCRT, you have done this. Split its nucleus, and then you have two daughter amoeba cells, daughter amoebas. As simple as that. But man is not even able to reproduce himself. He needs another human being, another person. ठीक है? Of opposite gender, but of same species, right? So what I am trying to say is that even for this basic necessity of reproducing, you need one more person. You are not able to do it yourself. ठीक है? Now let's say you need to grow crops. Then you need to have good supply of water. For that, let's say you need to construct dam. Can you do this all alone yourself? Today we are going over and spraying sulfide oxides over your clouds to make sure that rain does not happen over places where flood chances are more. ठीक है? This cannot be possible if one man was let alone to do what he can do. ठीक है? You need some form of association, teamwork, and hence what man does, man creates new and new institutions. Never think of any institution like some building, coaching institute, FitG, Vidya Mandir classes. No, no, no. New institution is just a organization, association to do something that you alone cannot. Understand? Here, for reproducing and taking care of a child, what you are trying to make a institution of marriage, because this also provide coexistence with other men, because you know that it feels bad if, let's say, this person you are producing a child with, ठीक है, if tomorrow let's say he is going with this new fellow, he will feel bad, right? Similarly, if they two go alone, he will feel bad. So you know that your spouse and your property, both thing, can hurt the peaceful coexistence. So some kind of label needs to be given so that other person understand that okay bhai, this one is not to, let's say, mingle, let's not come in between the contract that there is, and hence you use the institutions marriage. Similarly, marriage cannot solve all of your problem, not all. You need to make more, so what you do is two people, you two have a kid, you live here only, and you two, you also live nearby only, and you two help each other. So what you are slowly building is villages. ठीक है? Now villages, one person can provide security, these two can go and work on the field, these two can go and teach the rest of the kids. Lots of work. But again, villages also cannot provide everything, right? Now, till what stage will you keep on making more and more institutions, villages, cities, let's say ऊपर चले गए तुम, स्टेट वेट चले गए, क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है? Not state, let's say province. Basically, you keep on making more and more. You keep on making more and more associations until unless you reach a point where you know that भाई this वाला जो institute है is providing me with all of my needs. It is fulfilling all of my needs. My child rearing problem, my marriage problem, okay. I need to watch entertainment also, okay. BCCI also, yeah, okay, okay. I need to, if let's say I have some issue with somebody, I need to get a unbiased person. Judiciary, yes, yes, you have created that also. I need to make sure that I am given job, ठीक है, every for every 100 days 200 days, okay, मनरेगा, okay, you will implement, okay. Who is doing all this? State. State is capable of fulfilling all of your needs. Fulfilling all of your needs. Family can fulfill only one or two, ठीक है. Village can not provide you with your university education, ठीक है. A city cannot provide you with, let's say, passport. Oh, sorry, passport. Let's say airport. Let's say this is your city. There are lots of cities where there are no airports. You cannot travel to foreign from cities. Many cities, okay. So only a state is able to provide you that. Let's say India. It is, let's say, state has some kind of, let's say, MBA. A super MBA it has, and it is able to make sure that all of the different institutions, sister or let's say daughter institutions it provides, and every other institution under the state only. Let's say this is RBI, and RBI will make sure the different banking system is there and you are provided money. PFRDA, ठीक है, provident fund it will manage, ठीक है. So state is what in our terms we will call self-sufficient, self-sufficient entity. And you need this self-sufficient entity, then only you call any institution a state. Now understand this point, self-sufficiency. I have gone over this multiple times, but laying emphasis on it more now because you understand how much problem a person can have if there is no state. Most of his, why do you think people are so poor in places like Pakistan, Afghanistan? Why there so many issues there? Why people are taking refuge in Turkey when Syrian civil war was happening? Arey bhaiya, there is no state. Your requirements are not getting fulfilled. What will you do? You will try to go in ambit of some state because only a state can provide you with all your requirements, all your needs. ठीक है? So I think that one thing that Aristotle is very astoundingly able to make us see is that how important state is for a person. And at a time when sophists are of opinion that man is important and man creates state, which is, if you go by literal meaning, is very true. Technically man also only creates state, but the problem is, do we even call you man? Do we even call you man if there is no state? Were we calling that? Array, that photo is gone. Were we calling that? Can you call this person? Just think of this. Think of this person once in forest, in jungle. That person, this person. Can we call this person a man, a human being? Is he being human? As Salman Khan would ask. But you understand, this person living in forest whole his life, making ulti सीधी sounds, ठीक है? Now, is he even a man? He is not even able to get himself water to bathe daily. He does not know the concept of bathing. He does not have a institution of marriage. ठीक है? He is just going here and there. Maybe he will find someone to reproduce. Maybe he will never find somebody to mate. Okay, he has not been in company of another human being. ठीक है? He does not know what a cloth is. He does not know how to grow food. Do we even call this person a man, or it is just another animal? So even though sophists are correct that okay, man creates it, that is fine, but you cannot decrease the level of importance it has on you being called as a man, because you cannot be called as a man before state. And this is the justification that Aristotle tries to give on the basis of the needs of a man. कि भाई needs you need to fulfill, and not all institution can fulfill. Family can fulfill some, villages can fulfill some, cities can fulfill some. Which will be the self-sufficient, fulfilling all the needs? State. And when you have state, then after you can call yourself man, right? Before that, so you are just animal. ठीक है? You meet a guy from Nigeria living in a tribe, or let's go to Nagaland and try to meet a tribal person living in a jungle there. Obviously, you won't be able to meet. Go with a forest range officer. Okay, try to see how they are living. Or let's say the Andaman PVTGs. Try to see them how they are living, what they are wearing today, what their technology is. You will understand that they are not really man. They are just animal. ठीक है? You do this PVTGs of Andaman. You try to see how they are living. Last year they killed some American guy who was going there to convert them to Christianity. Stupid people always trying to convert. But you understand this point very much. Okay. Now, moving ahead. So, can we call this thing that state is your precondition for good life? Now, understand this thing. Good life, Socrates also gave, and Socrates never gave importance to talking about what is important state or not. ठीक है? He assumed that state is before man. Similarly, Plato, state before man. This guy, Aristotle, is actually telling us about a scenario which actually exists. They were busy talking about imagination. He is actually talking about a thing that exists, state. State is a real thing. ठीक है? And because you provide everything that is your need, every need state is providing. ठीक है? It is like your mother. Try to think of it like that. Every need it is providing, even bigger than mother, I think. You try to imagine it like that. Every need, even your mother, has been provided by state technically. ठीक है? Because state only made sure that your grandparents and the institution of marriage for your grandparents was there. Good establishment was there. ठीक है? Good education was given. Road network was there. Then only your mother father would get let's say got married. Then you happened and you were given polio drops. You are fine. You are everything is fine. So every need has been taken care of by the state. So doesn't it deserve your complete obligation, or let's say duty? Do you understand why they lay emphasis on duty? Because they believe that भाई स्टेट ने ही सब कुछ दिया है, तुम्हारा तो बनता है ना, ड्यूटी तो निभाओ अपनी, दैट्स इट, ज़्यादा नहीं है इसमें स्टेट के ऊपर. ओके, so that thing you try to understand. Now, how Aristotle puts this thing in his words, that state comes into existence for the sake of life. Obviously, sake of life, your protection, your security, your family, your future generation. For the sake of life, state come into existence. But why does it continues? It continues for the sake of good life. ठीक है? Or let's say we can say that our state is natural institution. Now understand this thing, don't get confused in this word. Obviously you are making the state, but there are two times. One, when you are creating state, who will create? This will create. I am not saying who, this will create. But after creating this state, then only we can call human. Before that तो भाई कोई animal है looking like the human today's. ठीक है? So you create state, you form state. Why? For the sake of life. Human is born, man is born, and it continues. State continues for the sake of good life. There are other states also, not just your state and your other different state. Let's say this is state of France, Britain, let's say India. You will crash among each other. ठीक है? सिक्योरिटी से लेकर, फूड सिक्योरिटी से लेकर, योर आइडेंटिटी, ठीक है, पहचान, सब कुछ स्टेट इज गिविंग. ठीक है? नरेटिव, or let's say purpose in life, everything somehow in one way or another state will provide. Okay, now if we go by, let's say, chronology, first let's say hen or egg. So you think of it like that person obviously got born first, and obviously we can say that state will come later. Many people will come together and they will say that भाई हमारा तो चलेगा नहीं, बनाना पड़ेगा कुछ. And they will say family, village, no, state. Okay, but if chronologically we do, let's say at 1 p.m. man was created, at 2 p.m. state was created. So how come we are saying that naturally state is a natural entity you are creating? How do we do this? How can we also say that state is before man? अरे भाई, chronologically only we are saying that man is before state, but this is not a man. Again you got fooled. I just told you. How are you confusing? This is not a man. This is just an animal. It is not a human life that he is living here. ठीक है? Roaming in the trees. Human life is here na. In homes, huts, villages, dams, created dams, boats. You are, ठीक है? Colonizing the world. Yay, British Empire. Okay. So this is what we call as human life. Not this. Here just animal life you were having. Hence we call state came before. ठीक है? State is before human life. Think state before. So I don't think there is need to do repetition over here. But while writing, we will be doing like this. Arguments of Aristotle for state are based upon 1. Needs of a man, that you are not a self-sufficient entity, नहीं हो तुम. So you keep on creating more and more association, bigger and bigger association. The association that is able to fulfill all of your requirements, all of your needs, is what we call as state, self-sufficient entity. The second is based on your chronology. Now obviously human will be born first, state will be born later, but this is not what we call as human. This is just an animal, and this is not a human life, this is an animal life. When state is there, after that only you can start calling yourself human, or let's say your life will start becoming human life. Okay? And then there is another third teleological argument that he tries to give. Teleological is very Indian in sense because it is based upon your idea of fate, नसीब. ठीक है, अरे भगवान ने जो लिखा है यही है, डेस्टिनी है. व्हाट इज द डेस्टिनी ऑफ ह्यूमन? टू लिव अंडर अ स्टेट. ये डेस्टिनी है. You have to live under a state. A human being cannot live outside a state. Human being will always live under a state. Now let's try to brief it out. What important point we have to take out from here is that state will always come into existence for your sake of life. When I'm talking about you, who are you? Human. So obviously human life will begin when state will be there. So when state start, human life starts. ठीक है? So state will come into existence for the sake of human life or sake of life, but it will continue for sake of good life. And for sake of good life, when we are trying to go, we are trying to create a good life, and we are trying to have a good life. What does this mean? That we will try to make it ideal, and we will try to have a good political life. This is what he changes. Who? Plato. Good life को Socrates का Plato ने change करके good political life. Okay, try to understand this thing. Second is Aristotle says this thing: a person who can live without state can be either beast or a god. He can be a beast or can be a god, but he cannot be a man. One who can live without a state can be a beast or a god, but not a man. Obviously, because when state starts, then only you become a man. Human life starts only with state. This point I want you to take with you. Okay, so this is all that there is. No need to worry about this. Now try to understand his concept of citizenship. This we need to understand his concept of slavery. Okay, these are the people in Athens. We have moved on now to our theory of citizenship. Obviously, I have made sure that you are aware of who will be the citizen, because I have, and without making you know about it, I have made you aware of this. Okay, so who are not citizens? According to Aristotle, who is not a citizen of Athens? These persons are not citizens. This is a slave. He is not a citizen. This is not a citizen. Who is he? He is a child. She is not a citizen. Why? Because she is a she, women. And he is not a citizen. Who is he? A old fellow, old person. Now understand his logic. Slave cannot be a citizen because he does not have reason. अरे भैया रीजन नहीं है तभी तो स्लेव है, नहीं तो मास्टर होता ना. Child, he is not grown enough, he does not have the, his, let's say, ability to reason has not developed much, so he cannot perform his duties. He needs to go to school, he needs to learn to speak, etc. He's not developed enough, so not matured. Women, because busy with household works, busy with household. And old person, physically weak. So how can you perform your duties towards your state? You cannot, and hence no citizenship, no citizenship for you. And obviously your, let's say, Spartan people or any foreign people, that also. Okay, now basically then who are left? Who is citizen? We have decided who is not citizen, then who are citizen? Then basically your Greek male, ठीक है, ऋतिक रोशन, he is a Greek male. And let's say if child is not there, old man is not there, women is not there, slave is not there, can a, this is a, let's say, rickshaw, very bad drawing, this is a rickshaw or this is an auto, can they also come and be citizen, take active participation in the affairs of the state? The answer will be no. Why? You need to have property, understand the logic of property, you need to be of propertied class. Now why is this required? Because property shows that you have reason. The reason you need to have na to amass property. How can you amass property or generate wealth if you are stupid? ठीक है? You need to have reason. And let's say instead of going through scheme of education that Plato tries to provide for knowing who is having reason, who is not having reason, Aristotle is very practical in nature. He says, "Bhai, check kar lo who has property. Those who have property, they are obviously rational. If you are rational, then only you have property. ठीक है? Irrational person cannot ever have property. He won't be accumulating property ever. He must be stupid. ठीक है? Stupid person will sometimes lose property, but he will not be able to amass property, and that is his justification. And this is very practical in nature, I think, than going through all the education system. And what your citizens needs to do? Your citizens needs to do basically affairs of state में हिस्सा, affairs of state. Now obviously you need to take participation in affairs of the state. What kind of affairs? What kind of affairs do you have in India, state of India? भैया वही legislative, law making you have need to do parliament में, judicial activity you need to take up, executive role you need to take up, ठीक है? International order also you need to maintain. So with time the roles will keep on increasing. So there is not much here, but let's try to understand slaves. Now what is this? I told you this thing that Plato and Aristotle both believe in. Plato gave his theory of souls, and every soul is different because component is different: reason, appetite, courage. So natural inequality, we are saying Plato was believing in natural, because soul to bhai at time of birth only you are having, right? It is not something that you conceive after birth. So by birth you are decided कि you are either having reason, courage or appetite. Natural inequality. Now how can we say that Aristotle also believe in natural inequality? Because He believes in slaves and masters. The concept of slaves and masters. Now let's try to understand what this is. So according to Aristotle, a person is there who has no reason. ठीक है? Now what do you do by them? He is, see the keyword, I am talking about natural. Inequality is something different. He has given both inequality and natural inequality. We are trying to understand only natural inequality. That is, you have no, a person has no control over it. Let's say there is inequality in wealth. So that is a man-made issue. ठीक है? But naturally, how you are trying to say? You are saying that you are a man, and if you have no reason, and let's say you are very strong in physique, your body is very good, you can do long hours of work, then you are basically slave by nature. As simple as that. You are a slave by nature. You are a natural slave. And there is this person, he can be physically weak or physically strong, it does not matter much. Most probably you will be physically weak, but your mental stamina is too much. Mentally you are very 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 strong. ठीक है? Who you are? You are a natural master. So according to him, every person can either be a natural slave or a natural master. ठीक है? And according to him, this is good for the whole society, as if you are a master and you are mentally strong, then you can utilize that mental strength in the affairs of the state. ठीक है? Which is your duty. And this duty, who is helping you perform? Your slave. This is your slave, and he will perform tasks that you are supposed to. For you he will perform tasks. Let's say getting bricks or getting firewood, making food, everything he will do. This will make sure that you are free to perform your duty for your state. The whole purpose of everything that Plato and Aristotle do is state. Everything is state for them. ठीक है? So technically only duty needs to be performed. ठीक है? Plato was giving women liberation for the sake of performing their duties towards state, women. And what Aristotle is saying is justifying slavery very easily, that why you have weak mental capacity, you are supposed to work with a master. And we see a flip side to Aristotle. He says that a slave can develop, he can develop skills. ठीक है? He can develop skills, and if he develops good skills, then the master can make him free. That आज से you are azad. If you have seen Harry Potter, Toby, you give a sock to him and he is free. ठीक है? So let's try to break it down. Masters and slaves. Now we are talking about theory of slaves. The concept should come to us as Aristotle's natural inequality. But one thing you need to lay focus on is that he also gave a out. If it seems very very disturbing to you, then he is giving you an out also. First, let's understand the whole concept. Slave can be of two types. One can be of your natural born slaves, and other can be of different reasons. Let's say prisoner of war. When you got Bangladesh and you had 96,000 Pakistani soldiers as your prisoner of wars, you could have made them slave. But obviously, let's not do that. So we do not talk about this. We are just talking about natural inequality. We need to compare it with Plato, right? Now Plato does it by giving a random imagination that भाई soul है उसके अंदर ये होता है. We need not to go over there. We are talking about Aristotle. He is a very practical guy, and he says that by naturally born slave to that person is who is reason and let's say rationality इसमें है नहीं, but body very strong. And master is a person who has reason, who has courage also, and mentally very strong. ठीक है, physically say we do not need to care. He could be weak or could be strong. Point is, he has this thing. Now, how are they supposed to help each other? Both slave and master. How is this a healthy? Hence the theory, justification. You need to justify your slavery. So, see, the master is free to perform his duty, free to perform duty, and slave, he can't live. अगर इसको अकेला छोड़ दो, you make him live alone, he won't be able to live because he has no reason. He needs to be told कि भाई now do this, now do that, now do that. After living with a master, a good master, after few years, then he will try to gain some skills, virtue, some kind of talent he will start to make. ठीक है, he will develop this skills. And when master sees that bhai अरे वाह you are a master chef now, then he will say now go, आज से you are free, you have a virtue of yourself, and that virtue could be of anything. Reason could be there, courage could be there. ठीक है, appetite is not a virtue. First thing, appetite सब में होता है. This is a virtue. If good virtue you can show that bhai I am a very intellectual person now, I can do trigonometry sir, he will say now you are free, now go. ठीक है. And because you are Aristotle and you are giving this justification and you are giving it out as well, ठीक है, you need to make sure that nothing bad happens to him, slave. So you give a prescription to masters that you take good care of slaves. ठीक है. So this is what is there in slavery. Understand important point that there is an out and there is a justification. Justification is that why slave can't live without or live on his own. Out if he develops some virtue. ठीक है. How is this good? State is the end. State के लिए good है क्योंकि master can perform his duties. Why? Because he is a citizen. Slave तो है ही नहीं citizen. So this is our core goal, and this all makes sense and this can be practical. It has good out. Slave is also happy. Okay, I will develop some virtue, I will go out, I will be treated well also. So what is the harm? ठीक है. And he is also fine and state is also fine. If state is fine, so people are also fine. ठीक है. So no issue in this. Let's try to critique it. What can be the critic? Now obviously you are giving a good justification and everything, but what you are not taking into account, what are you not taking into account according to Kant? Human dignity. ठीक है, there is some kind of dignity to human. As Immanuel Kant says, man is end in itself. No person ought to treat other person as a means to an end. यूज नहीं कर सकते हो, you cannot use a person, you cannot use a person or a human or treat a person as a means to an end. Every man is an end in itself. Okay, so you're not taking into account the intrinsic value that each person has. ठीक है, you are just using a person as a, let's say, machine, or let's say tool that you can just discard or throw or get a new one. It is not like that. It is an individual and unique person. It is irreplaceable. Everyone is. ठीक है, we can see Aristotle's views of slave and master being extrapolated where, in our British history, British Raj, where we see white man's burden. ठीक है, civilizing mission. Okay, so I guess let's finish it here only. Let's pick it up from next class. Okay, and I guess that's it. ठीक है, so I think next class we'll do it completely, not much. So what we did today, as I said, theory of idea, state, citizenship, and slavery. 1 2 3 4 ठीक है, हो जाएगा. Justice we'll try to do next time. चलो, bye bye.